Well, another year has come and went, and thank goodness for that, because 2025 freaking sucked. Well, except for the video games. They were pretty good, I guess. With the release of a brand new Nintendo console, full-price games costing up to $70, and PC parts skyrocketing in value as of late, it's crazy that there were so many high-quality video games that were released this year alone. Whether they be AAA, AA, or even indie releases, this year brought us many amazing games to rank and nominate for the best of 2025. Hey, my name is Jude, and these are my top 5 favorite games of 2025. Let's rock it. Number 5, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It's crazy how this game's been in development since 2017. So much so, in fact, that the dev team went back to Retro Studios since Nintendo was not satisfied with the original game, which is absolutely what led to this game taking forever to come out. Despite that, they managed to pull it off in the end, because this is probably the best looking Metroid game I've seen since Dread. Metroid Prime 4 is the latest game in the Prime series that finally continues where the third entry left off, and has Samus Aran face off against the space pirates once more. But she and a few other troopers get blasted to an unknown world, and Samus must now acquire new power-ups, rescue the missing Federation troopers, and find all 5 keys to get back home. And these Federation troopers will make it or break it for you, if you're on Twitter that is. But for me, they're barely in the game, so I tend to focus on the actual video game that I'm playing, you know? It's a Metroid Prime game. You lose all your abilities, find out you're the chosen one, get some double jumps to grab elemental weapons, scan objects, etc. But the biggest change is Samus's brand new amiibo-sized motorcycle. This all-terrainer lets Samus race across the new open-world hub area, which is a giant desert, by the way, and is the only part of the game that Twitter seems to know about. And her bike controls are okay-ish to me. Sometimes it was fun to drive around the desert, other times I had no idea to press B twice to do a power slide. Well, at least she gets the Akira slide. Good job, Retro Studios. Another new mechanic are the psychic abilities Samus can use. As you progress through the game, she'll gain powers like making platforms appear out of thin air, and the guided missile to solve puzzles and beat certain enemies. Though there is a lock-on for when you get close enough to the end, I find it hard to control against required enemies and forgot it existed for most of the game. Now the bosses are, you guessed it, also okay. The encounters against Psylocke are the best parts of the game. Even if it's just a Ben 10 looking wannabe that hates Samus because, actually I don't know why he hates Samus. What makes his fights the highlights are the fact that he has a banger of a track and forces you to use the Morph Ball just to dodge his frickin' spin moves as well. And in the second fight, you have to use the grappling hook to avoid his lightning from the ground, which made all of his encounters an absolute blast to play through. One other boss I also enjoyed was against the Fenoris, since you have to chase him on the hover bike like he's Phalanx from Shadow of the Colossus. And the arena you face him in being a lava zone was a nice added touch too. Until I realized I had to use a psychic charge to shoot him from the inside the mouth at the end of phase 2, but okay. But other ones like the Zelios and the Carvax just feel like old Prime bosses to me, but without any of the charm. But regardless, I very much enjoy my time with Prime 4 despite some minor hiccups along the way. And if you want Nintendo to keep making more Metro games, please buy this game, people. Seriously, the amount of hate this game gets is ridiculous, dude. Number 4, SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide. A brand new Bob Square game in the year of our Lord 2025, and the scandalous part is, it's pretty good actually. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I love the heck out of the original SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon, and reference it in nearly all of my videos and streams. Now, in case it wasn't obvious enough, I absolutely adore the video game Battle for Bikini Bottom, which I'll cover in a What Is One Day, I promise. But Titans of the Tide takes a few cues from its predecessors while mixing it up by having you actively swap between both SpongeBob and Patrick. And there are several puzzles and platforms to solve that have you swap between the two of them on a dime to progress through the levels. Something I didn't notice until I started recording footage for this video, for example, was that the music changes depending upon which character you're playing as. Like how the instrumentation of the OST changes whether you're either SpongeBob or Patrick. And the game is just as comedic and goofy as the show it's based off of. The literal premise is that the Flying Dutchman gets ticked off that King Neptune skids him in line. Man, I thought Karens were bad. And before it can go right down to his thighs, he then blows it up. And Sponge and Starfish gotta go around, stop the two from wrecking all Bikini Bottom as a result. The game takes the opportunity to bring back some mechanics from the previous entries, like how SpongeBob's Karate Kick makes a return from the Cosmic Shake game, for example. But they also give our boy Patrick some new abilities, like a hook to open up new platforms, as well as being able to grab enemies and objects to throw at foes. and even a new burrow mode that lets him tunnel down and jump up to reach higher planes via the holes in the ground, or grab loot that's buried around too. Both characters can also perform a new dodge roll on the ground or in the air, which is good for avoiding pesky ghosts that won't die in one hit. And there's even a new surfboard that you can sail on in certain zones, which can be used to travel across places like the Goo Lagoon and Jellyfish Fields too. And it is hilarious to ram the board into tougher foes for maximum damage. Speaking of which, there are several side quests you can find throughout the levels to get more costumes and photo filters and whatnot. One of the most recurring side quests involves Larry the Lobster, who's living it up and has several timed races you can partake in for some extra goodies. Or even find tickets for My Leg Guy and grab a piece of chocolate. Chocolate! Shut up! To this fish guy, so he'll finally leave you alone. Yeah, every time you walk next to this dude, he literally screams chocolate in your ears. And once you unlock the hub area, you can purchase costumes with in-game currency, which are reflected in the cutscenes too. All of which are pulled directly from the show, and are a joy for anyone who's a fan of the cartoon. Some of them are ones dating all the way back to the show's first season, like Peggy the Pirate and Yo Blind Beard the Pirate. It's a fan's dream come true, let me tell you. Though I will say, while I'm glad this game isn't full price, ranging at around 40 bucks, it is a little on the shorter side for my liking, only clocking in at around 5 to 7 hours. And there's only 5 levels in the game, so you may feel like you want to get a little more out of your money spent with this one. Well, at least there's a season pass that costs 20 bucks. Yikes, I don't think I'm feeling that one, Mr. Krabs. Also, if we're comparing the two, Titans of the Tide's OST is pretty lacking, and there's several cutscenes that feel like they're really lacking some sound effects to emphasize the impact of the situation going on. Quick, someone modded OST from Battle for Bikini Bottom, I'm begging you. Oh yeah, and there's the boss fights. Nah, they're okay. Some of them I really enjoyed, like the Dutchman's treasure chest, since he forces you to use Patrick's hook and SpongeBob's kick to go to town on the darn thing. And even the one against hibernated Sandy, who's looking to find the real Dirty Dan to give him what for. And she gives Consul Radon a run for his money with long attack strings, good lord. But then there's the mini bosses early on that get recycled as enemies almost immediately. Yay. Well, at least you get to fight all the bosses after the credits roll. If you're a fan of the source material, and you better be, and love the heck out of Battle for Bikini Bottom, give this game a try. It's a fun time with all the platforming, references, the humor's pretty spot on, and of course, Patrick is butt naked. Man, they really went all in with that one, didn't they? Number 3, Sonic Racing Crossworlds. This game, which was announced at the Game Awards, will not be the last one that makes it on this list. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is the latest racing spin-off to grace our screens, and it's arguably the best one in a long time. There isn't much in the way of story for this one, only having some banter between racers during Grand Prix matches, but they're all fully voice acted and are chock full of references to previous entries too. Though the game is full price at $70, if you have a group of friends to play this with, it is worth it in my opinion. The game is another kart racer, nada, with tons of power-ups and tracks based on various Sonic games. But the unique gimmick is that the second lap can be an entirely different track, which is determined by whoever's in first place. It could be a predetermined track, like the Dino Jungle from Sonic and the Secret Rings, or even a random track, like the ice levels from Sonic Unleashed to spike things up for the other racers. Just like any solid kart racer, you've got several items you can use on the tracks to destroy your enemies. You've got boost items in the form of the Whisk from Sonic Colors, rocket punches to lock onto other racers, tornadoes to throw off multiple opponents, and the most famous one being the Monster Truck, which lets you drive in your car right after a beer, and those other racers will be shaped like a deer as you plow through the competition. The game features a healthy variety of characters from the franchise, including my personal favorite, Silver the Hedgehog! And there's other returning favorites like Blaze the Cat, Shadow the Hedgehog, E123 Omega, and of course, the Babylon Rogues. And I enjoy rage baiting everyone when taking Jet in a car. Speaking of cars, the vehicle customization is pretty good too, with tons of car types to unlock, mix, and match, and they even brought back the Extreme Gears from the Sonic Riders series. Though this time you won't run out of air with this one, thank the Lord. One thing that I will say is a negative though, is that the matches can be hit or miss. Sometimes the lobbies just break, other times the darn thing breaks my 47 and it crashes the whole game. But what makes me want to come back and play this several months later are the various DLC characters and tracks. Currently, we've got tons of paid and free DLC choices, like Joker from Persona 5, Hatsune Miku, and of course, SpongeBob and Patrick, already back apparently. Well, too bad there's no voice acting for any of these characters, or the Werehog for that matter. Guess Sega really cheaped out on getting any of their VAs back for this game, huh? But there's even plans to bring back other classic game characters like Pac-Man and Mega Man later down the road. In a year where the only big competition was Mario Kart World, it's a miracle this game managed to pull ahead of a big first-party Nintendo game. Or, hear me out, MK Roll just sucks. Guess that's what happens whenever you charge a game for $80. But regardless, if you're a fan of kart racers and have friends who all love Sonic the Hedgehog, pick up this one, dude. It's a ton of fun. Also, it is fully crossplay. Thank you, Sega. Makes me finally want to do a Zero Gravity Night Crew now I think about it. Number 2, Elden Ring Night Rain. Well, I guess Namco meant it when they said they were doing Elden Ring spin-offs, because Night Rain takes the elements of the Souls-like genre and the world and weapons of Elden Ring and chops it all up into a roguelike. And yet, somehow, this all worked, because Night Rain managed to sell extremely well and already has great DLC out too, especially since the game is built with co-op in mind, letting you team up with up to 2 friends, though you can partake in duos and solos if you want. You know, if you really hate yourself, that is. You fight enemies on the map to level up, find better loot to win the night, and book it to the center of the circle once the rain starts kicking in to fight the night bosses. And once you beat your first Night Lord, the game introduces a new mechanic called the Shifting Earths, which basically changes the layout of the maps, like having a volcano section, a freaking blizzard that tanks your frame rate, and not to mention Miyazaki's favorite level design, poison swamps. Yeah, that's really great, Miyazaki. Anyways, what made me really want to jump back in and play more were the fun characters you can play in the game. The base game gives you a good roster of heroes with predetermined stats, but the DLC gives us 2 new characters, like the Scholar, as well as the first of my personal favorites, the Undertaker. A holy woman with a big hammer that focuses on strength/faith, and she has one of the best ults in the game where she whips onto an opponent and deals massive damage no matter where they are. What's also great about her is that she can get a free ult when an ally uses theirs too. Good old Undertaker, they could never make me hate you. Another warrior I enjoyed was good old John Wilder, who gets some of the coolest armors in the game and has a high strength stat, which starts him out with great swords. And his character skill lets him hook across the map like a dash, along with his ultimate, which can be charged for a big old kablooey to the face. And it only gets better if you find relics to have it scorch the arena in flames too, as well as the adorable little Revenant, because blue is the color of beauty. This character can be unlocked later in the game, and her gimmick involves her summoning phantoms to help keep the heat off of your allies. And her ultimate reses any fallen allies close enough, along with letting her phantoms use their ults too. She may start out with low HP, but trust me, she is great in the right hands, especially when a player is rocking 2 giant swords with her. But my overall favorite has to be the Iron Eye, the dude with the coolest cape in any FromSoft game that starts out with bows and can shoot foes from a safe distance, and his super fires off a big old shot that knocks down bosses like there's no tomorrow. And as you progress through the game, you can give your characters minor buffs when going into hunts, like items that let your starting weapon have an elemental buff like ice or fire, for example. But of course, the game lets us duke it out with both new and old bosses from the company's history. The old comes in the form of night bosses, fought at the end of each in-game day, like the Demon Prince from Dark Souls 3, Morgoth the Fell Omen, the Death Knights from the Elden Ring DLC, freaking Smelter Demon, and the Lord of Blood who beat the allegations, Mo, who pulled a Miska Muska Mickey Mouse and wiped out my entire party on night 2. Though the new bosses will make it or break it for you in this one, since if your party dies to these bad boys, you go right back to the hub and start the run all over again. Yikes. And since expeditions can take up to an hour, it can be difficult to learn the boss's new attack patterns, so you'll probably end up having to tackle them several times before winning the fight, especially since they're rocking a lot of HP to boot. However, not only is this not full price, only costing around $40, but once you beat the game, you get to unlock various costumes of classic characters from the Dark Souls series, like Sir Artorias and of course, Solaire Vestora. But regardless, you're sure to have a fun time with this roguelike if you're a big fan of From Software and all their games, and we can only hope and pray that Duskbloods is just as good when it comes out next year. Only on Switch 2, by the way. Number 1, Monster Hunter Wilds. Talk about a game that has given me the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Monster Hunter Wilds is the latest entry in Capcom's long-running series, and as someone who started with MH World all the way back on the PS4, this game truly feels like a sequel to World in the best way possible. Aside from the graphical leap of next-gen hardware, the game expands on the combat from previous entries by adding the ability to free aim all weapons in the game, leading to hits being more accurate when tackling giant monsters, since free aim lets you better adjust your character's position relative to where the monster is. While the weapons may not have the same abilities as Monster Hunter Rise, the improvements to their kit and power compared to World were a welcome addition. Sort of. Weapons like the longsword were just as crazy busted as ever, but I found myself mixing it up with weapons I had barely sunk time into with the lance. Lance being able to do a 3-hit finisher after a combo felt incredibly rewarding to pull off, along with the game's newest additional mechanic, being able to hit a monster's weak point for a cool flashy hit. Basically, when you do enough hits, a wound can be seen while using free aim, letting you do solid damage and even stun the monster briefly, which has a unique animation for every weapon in the game, like how the lance charges forward for a big ol' poke with the stick. And my two favorite mainstays, the hammer and switch axe, were just as fun to bring into hunts. Though I do miss the power charge for hammer, the new offset letting you spin like its MHGU was a great way to buff this weapon, especially considering that the hammer was kinda weak at the start of this game. But switch axe though, good lord, this game made me main swax for real. Switch axe can once again go into power axe mode like in World, which lets you morph into sword mode much faster than just whacking the thing till the meter goes up. On top of that, there's also the new full release slash after doing a discharge, which always felt amazing to pull off. It may not have the DMC-like combos of Rise, but you know what? This is a pretty good alternate. Wilds also brings several other new changes to the franchise, like the secret to make traversal faster, the largest lobby size in the series yet, which can hold up to 100 players by the way, as well as the first entry to have full crossplay. Thank you, Capcom! Now please add cross progression. Now those of you who watched my videos before know that I absolutely love Monster Hunter. That being said, the story really sucks. It tries to get you to care about this Nata kid like he's the main character, like how he spends the whole game wanting to kill the Arkville monster, only to change his mind later and pretend like he's just like him for real. No kid, you are a human, that is a giant monster trying to kill you and commit cannibalism. Not to mention, the narrative takes itself way too seriously, like how the group debates on whether they even have the right to kill the final boss, and our player character comes up with the brilliant idea to just hit them really hard. Riveting. Also, while I'm grateful for the post-launch support, with new monsters being added like Saragios and Lagiacrus, every subsequent patch has made the game perform progressively worse and worse. Like the infamous September FF14 collab patch, which literally forced me to uninstall and reinstall the game 3 times, because this game on PC needs to be on an SSD. Thankfully, Capcom have addressed some of these issues with the latest GOG Mazios patch though, so we'll have to see how the game performs with these future patches. But since the game absolutely tanked on my 4070, especially when those gosh darn weather effects roll in, it really feels like the devs just want you to use FSR/FrameGen to artificially boost the game's frame rate just to get a rock solid 60. But despite the multiple issues I have with the story and performance, the overall gameplay and weapon changes from previous entries has encouraged me to come back and replay this since the game was released all the way back in February. And now all we can do is wait for the inevitable Wilds expansion, which will surely cause the game to go beyond 100 gigs. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Take care.